Hello everyone, back tuning in to today's second video. We're going to have a look at the weather for next week to 10 days. Today's second video, this will extend us into the second week of February now, more or less, and in fact we can go a bit beyond that with the extended GFS and ECM ensembles. So, interesting weather today. We've got a mix of rain, sleet and snow moving across particularly England and Wales, with snow showers in the north and the west of Scotland. There hasn't been all that much snow around so far today away from hills. We're expecting more of this to turn to snow through the latter part of the afternoon and into this evening as this system pushes eastwards. That's what we was highlighting in Snowwatch last night, that the further east this band of weather gets, the greater the chance that it will turn to snow. But it really is a nowcast sort of situation for a lot of us. There's a lot of model uncertainty. It's very much a marginal situation. And so if you're through the Midlands, parts of eastern England, Lincolnshire, Yorkshire, East Anglia, down into the southeast of England, the next few hours, don't be at all surprised if you see some snow. Don't be surprised if you get a covering of snow, maybe a centimetre or two. And that's particularly most likely on high ground, but possibly on low ground as well. Now, the problem once this pushes through later this evening is that the whole lot's going to freeze up. It's going to become very cold tonight, with temperatures going down below -5 for some places, and that's going to lead to a real ice rink in the morning. So, very dangerous conditions on untreated roads and pavements tomorrow morning, I think, and the councils are not gritting the roads and pavements as much as they did a couple of years or so back. So do take care if you're out and about early tomorrow morning. It could be very, very nasty and dangerous on untreated roads and pavements. Another dose of snow potentially coming up on Thursday into Friday. I'm going to update Snowwatch tonight with all of the latest on that. And of course, we'll bring you up to date with where we are with today's snow as well. With Snowwatch, probably around 8 o'clock this evening. Right, so let's go with your second video update then. We're going to start off with a radar picture from the Weather Outlook. So we've got heavy snow showers across the northern western parts of Scotland, some coming down into Northern Ireland. Then we've got this band of wet weather pushing out of Northern England and Wales now and heading in towards southwest England and the Midlands. Some bright colours in there, indicating some pretty heavy bursts of precipitation. Let's see what the precipitation type is doing. So we've got a real mishmash here of rain, sleet, snow. Rain, of course, is this sort of stuff. The pink stuff is snow. And we've got these, excuse me, we've got these green colours. That is primarily sleet. And then, of course, we've got these snow showers up in the north and west. It doesn't show them greatly as snow showers, but most of these are snow showers across West Scotland and Northern Ireland. Let's have a look at the dew point. So you see how marginal this situation is. We've got dew points a degree or so above freezing, quite widely across England and Wales, still below freezing across parts of East Anglia, and increasingly dropping back to freezing across Scotland and Northern Ireland. Behind this system, it does turn cold. Now, you've got to have the dew point at or below freezing to get snow. When you have dew points around 1 or 2 degrees above freezing, then, of course, it's going to rain, be very cold rain. But if you get evaporative cooling, that can be enough to pull the dew point down just low enough to turn the rain to snow, if it's only like 1, 2 degrees above freezing. I think that's what we've got going on here with this situation. I think evaporative cooling, particularly as we go into the late afternoon and the evening, that evaporative cooling will become quite a big factor through the Midlands and eastern parts of England. So that's the reason that as this pushes eastwards, we expect it to turn increasingly to snow. The models don't tend to pick up on evaporative cooling all that well either. This is the Euro 4 precipitation type forecast for today. So let's just scroll up a little bit and then move through. So that's where Euro 4 is picking us up at right now, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, just about as I'm recording the video. So pretty good position for the placement of this system through northern England down into Wales, into southwest and beginning to push in towards the Midlands. A mix of rain, sleet and snow. So that's pretty good, actually. Pretty good prediction on where we are right now. As we go through to 6 o'clock in the evening, you see most of this is still rain through the Midlands. North Midlands into parts of Wales, we've got some snow beginning to turn up then. 9 o'clock in the evening, we find this turning more to snow through parts of the Midlands, although not huge amounts of snow being suggested, and then it pushes in towards East Anglia and South East England, more definitively snow there. That could definitely give a covering to parts of East Anglia, South East England through the course of this evening. And then it gets out of the way. Obviously, everything freezes up. We have snow showers peppering these western coasts overnight tonight and into tomorrow. Now, this is the Icon model. So the Euro4 is from Weather Online. This is from the Weather Outlook. Again, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Fairly good position for that band of precipitation through northern England down into Wales, into southwest England, showing a bit more in way of snow for Wales and northwestern England, perhaps, than we've actually got. But 3 to 6 o'clock in the evening, find this pushing into the Midlands, increasingly turning to snow. Definitely more snow with the Icon model from this compared to Euro4. It could well be that Icon is picking up more of that sort of evaporative cooling type situation that Euro4 is able to, and then we take that snow in towards parts of South Yorkshire, Lincolnshire, down into the East Midlands and some central southern parts of England. Patchy rain for East Anglia, South East England, but it turns to snow by midnight, snowing quite heavily through East Anglia, South East England. That could give a covering of snow even to parts of London if that came off. Again, more snow than Euro4 is suggested with Icon. That's 3 o'clock in the morning. The snow moves out of way into the North Sea. Everything is freezing up after that. And they've got these snow showers draped around the coast. So that's why it's such a nowcast situation. The models are very much in disagreement about this. The dew point is like a degree or a couple of degrees above freezing, but it's close enough if you account for evaporative cooling to pull the temperature down. The dew point is close enough to get to freezing as the precipitation turns heavy. As we saw on the radar picture, some of this precipitation is going really quite heavy now, particularly through parts of the Midlands and East Wales. They've got those brighter colours there. That's where the precipitation is turning pretty heavy. Along that heavy precipitation will probably be enough to produce some evaporative cooling, and that will probably be enough to turn this to snow. It'll be quite a slushy wet snow, but it could well give a couple of centimetres of snow even to lower levels, I think, through parts of eastern and southeastern Britain this evening. So that's the latest situation with the snow, and obviously we'll be keeping you updated in Snow Watch this evening about how things are progressing, both in terms of today, and then we'll focus particularly on what could be a much more reliable snow event, I think, on Thursday into Friday. That's when I've got my eyes on to potentially produce quite a significant dumping of snow across some parts of the country Thursday, late Thursday into Friday. So more on that in Snow Watch this evening. Arctic Oscillation observed and forecast chart is looking like this, just updated. The black line here tells where we've been with the AO, red lines at the end where GFS ensembles are forecasting the AO to go. Remember, it's just an index that's reflecting the state of the atmosphere. It's not driving anything, it just tells you what the atmosphere is doing. At the moment, the Arctic Oscillation is slightly negative. It's going to go even more negative, as we see from those red lines really dipping down there to the 1st of February. Then after that, through the first week of February, a bit of a recovery in the AO, but still trending more negative. And then we get a little bit of scatter as we go through in towards the second week of February, which would be this point just here. We've got most of these ensemble members still looking negative with the Arctic Oscillation, but we do have a few that are going into more positive territory. However, I think overall, GFS ensembles want to keep the Arctic Oscillation negative through to the second week of February. And when the AO is negative, you're going to have high pressure somewhere in the northern latitudes. And that's the reason that the AO is forced negative, because you've got the high pressure, you've got the blocking, forcing the scale down into negative territory. So the extended sort of negative Arctic Oscillation that we've had for a little while now is going to carry on, I think, into the second week of February. But at the same time, there's no sign of the NAO shifting its position. So again, the black line tells us where we've been with the NAO, the red lines at the end where the GFS ensembles are forecasting the NAO to go. At the moment, the NAO, as has been for most of the winter, is positive, and the GFS ensembles are forecasting the NAO to stay positive as well into the second week of February. Again, we have one or two outlier members that are going a little bit negative. These ones just here. But most of these ensemble members are keeping the NAO positive. So the two indexes are still out of sync with one another, and that tells us that the atmosphere is still fighting with each other. We've got the Arctic in a setup for blocking and high pressure up in the northern latitudes, high latitude blocking. Looks like it's going to be on the scene in the next couple of weeks. But at the same time, the NAO, or the Atlantic, we see it through the NAO, the Atlantic is still set up for westerlies. It's still set up for high pressure around Iceland and low pressure through the Azores. Until we see the Atlantic shifting into a blocking type setup with high pressure around Iceland and low pressure through the Azores. Until we see that, and we'll know when it's happening because the NAO will start to shift negative. Till we see that, we're going to have the Arctic and the Atlantic fighting with one another. And the kind of weather we've got now is what we'll probably continue to have, which is outbreaks of cold zonality, enough to produce snow at times, enough to get the wind into the north at times, but not a true northern blocking pattern, not a true Greenland or very significant Scandinavian high pressure type pattern. So this very unusual, very complicated winter, certainly complicated to forecast for winter, continues into February. Things don't look like they're going to be getting any easier for myself to forecast anytime soon. These are the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles in terms of the upper air temperatures. And we're looking at Sheffield, another place on our list. Big thank you to the person that suggested Sheffield to look at for today's ensembles. So the red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Sheffield. Obviously, we're colder than average at the moment. We're going to be staying colder than average through the rest of the week and into the weekend, and probably still just about into the start of next week as well. Eventually, though, as we get through to around 5th, 6th of February, this period just here, we're seeing a lot of scatter appearing within the GFS ensemble. So the trend of the ensemble is to turn things milder from where we are right now. We see that most of these ensemble members are lifting back up towards the red line, but that masks a lot of scatter. So we have several ensemble members that are up here that are sort of very mild on some members indeed, but we do have several that are really cold, and actually we've got a few now that are dipping down into the freezer in terms of cold. That going between -10 and -15 at 858 kPa. As I've explained before, standard cold is like -5 to -10. That's where we are right now, just generally cold, but it's not a big freeze. To get a big freeze on this scale, you will go down to -10 or lower, probably to -15. Obviously, you can go lower than that to -20, but that's very, very rare. And we have got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we've got sort of 4 or 5 on some members that are dipping down below -5 at 858 kPa through the second week of February. So those are producing genuine freeze-up type conditions. But then we've got all of these ones up here that are a lot milder. So it's very uncertain this second week of February. I think all we can really say is that on balance we are probably going to have a milder interlude through the course of next week. But how mild, how long it lasts, I think that is very much up in the air if you're part of the bum. As far as precipitation is concerned, plenty of rainfall spikes coming through, so it looks like it could be staying relatively unsettled. The snow row is looking like this for Sheffield. So here's today's snow highlighted quite well. Looks like they'll be getting some some snow up there in Sheffield through the course of this afternoon and this evening. And another dose potentially Thursday through to Friday. More about that on Snow Watch. After that, the snow spikes are easing away, so it doesn't look like the second week of February will be producing all that much in the way of snow. Temperature anomalies from the 29th of January to the 6th of February. Colder than average for the UK and Ireland. Most parts of northern and western Europe also coming out cold than average. Notice much milder than average though in the east and in the southeast of Europe. Very mild across western parts of Russia, but it does also extend down into the Black Sea and then down towards Greece as well. So one of the classic balancing acts of weather is that if the north and west of Europe is doing one thing, the southeast of Europe will often be doing the opposite, and in this case it turns out that it's the north and west that's cold and the south and southeast that's relatively mild. Precipitation anomalies look like that. So a bit drier than average for Scotland from the 29th of January to the 6th of February. Average to above average precipitation for England, Wales and much of Ireland too. That's how the GFS is looking then for Friday. We've got low pressure to our southwest on Friday. It's throwing up on a clouded front. That's where the snow event comes in. We've got, or the risk of a snow event comes in. We've got cold air in from the north and the east. We've got milder air trying to push up from the south and the southwest. In between, there's a weather front and a clouded front that could be producing quite a lot of snow from Thursday into Friday. There will be some mild air mixed in though, and as I say, we'll have more about that on Snow Watch anyway. That low pressure gets out of the way as we go through Saturday. We pull down these cold north to northeast winds, so the weekend is looking pretty cold, I have to say. A ridge of high pressure toppling in across the country from Saturday to Sunday will mean that we have hard overnight frost. Saturday probably has snow showers. Sunday probably turning mostly dry. Through to the early part of next week. Interestingly, we tried to move these weather systems in off the Atlantic, so we're trying to return to those westerly winds, but you'll notice quite a lot of high pressure sitting to our north and east on this particular GFS run. So these milder Atlantic winds are not returning with any sort of conviction, and there may even be some snow mixed in as these low pressures come up against the cold air. Try to get it out of the way, try to return us into westerly, but don't really manage to pull it off. That's how things look at day 10. Low pressure, again, it's very close to us, but you'll notice all of these heights that we've got to our north and northeast. So a very subtle adjustment with these lows further south would start to pull us into cold air. No real breakthrough of Atlantic winds, actually. It would only take a slight adjustment for that. We've got a trough of low pressure right over the top of the country on Saturday the 9th of February. Again, relatively high heights, though, sitting to our north, and then as we go into more extended range, we start to bring these low pressures through a little bit more, start to lower the heights to our north. So very inconclusive GFS run that. It does break the Atlantic through next week, but only very weakly. It's not breaking through with much conviction. And very, very close, really, that latest GFS run to keeping us cold through the course of next week. And we know from the ensemble members that we see here that there is the possibility, but it is the option, that we could keep things pretty cold through the course of next week. And a minority of members do actually take it into the freezer, but that's their outliers. It's not predicted that that's going to happen, but certainly there is the possibility that next week could stay quite cold. The parallel GFS run looks like this, again with low pressure down to our south and southwest on Friday. That moves into France, into Saturday. We pull in these cold north to northeasterly winds. They'll be bringing snow showers with them. Then a ridge builds over the country Saturday to Sunday, settling things down, but it will be very cold. And then through the early part of next week, the Atlantic just starts to get a little bit more umph with the parallel GFS run compared to the 6 o'clock GFS, 6 o'clock operational GFS run. So this is Wednesday next week when we bring in a southwesterly wind, and it does look quite a bit milder here, with the Atlantic coming through rather more strongly through the middle and second half of next week, albeit it's unsettled. Low pressure still out to west of the country, but I think the parallel GFS does want to break the Atlantic through a little bit more through the course of next week, and quite an extended spell of unsettled weather until we get to the middle of the month, and then we're starting to get heights rising to our north and west again, with winds turning back into the north. That's the 14th of February as far as we can go, and it's turning colder again. So very inconclusive for next week between the GFS operational and parallel runs. This is how the ECMWF looks again on Friday, midnight on Friday. Snow event is taking place across parts of England and Wales. That low moves down into France into Saturday, pulls back those cold north to northeasterly winds into the weekend. It stays cold with winds in from the north and ridges building in from off the Atlantic, settling things down through the early part of next week. Going from Sunday, actually missed out Monday, so let's just put Monday up. That's how Monday looks. Very slight movement of low pressure in from off the Atlantic. Probably still cold for most of us on Monday, and then as we go through to Tuesday, the Atlantic does start to break through when it begins to push into the southwest, and we start to open the door to milder winds. And then you go through into the middle part of next week. This is Wednesday again. Those westerlies are pushing through the country just with a little bit more conviction compared to the operational GFS runs. This is more in line with the parallel, really looking more unsettled and rather milder with the ECMWF through the course of next week. That's how we finish up at day 10 on Friday the 8th of February, bringing in relatively mild winds from off the Atlantic. Not as much in way of height rises to our north and northeast as compared to the operational GFS run. But we can see from the GFS ensembles via the postage stamps at the Icelandic Met Office that it really is a case of being 50-50 as to what happens when we get to day 10, Friday the 8th of February. So these are the options that are on the table within the GFS ensembles at day 10, 240 hours, 8th of February. We've got 26, 51% of the ECM WF ensembles that have us in a blocking setup. They have high pressure primarily over Scandinavia, and they will be bringing in cold, potentially very cold easterly winds. But then we've got 25 ensemble members, which is 49%, so it's 51 to 49%, that has us in a milder westerly flow, like the operational run is doing at day 10, and brings in southwesterly winds. So it really is 50-50 which way this is going to go through the course of next week. Will it be the milder westerly winds that we get, or will it be that high pressure over Scandinavia and those cold easterly winds? The split between the ECM ensembles, interestingly, does include the operational, which is mild, as we know, we've just seen it, and the control, which is favouring cold. So the control and the operational are split. Real sort of near 50-50 split in the ECM ensembles as to where we are at day 10. And if we go out to 2 weeks away, 360 hours, this 50-50 split does actually continue. So this is how things look at 2 weeks away. So it's 360 hours. It's the 13th of February. We've got 26 ensemble members that have above average heights to our south and below average heights up to the north, so they're relatively mild, bring wind in from off the Atlantic. And then we've got 25, so again it is basically a 50-50 split. 25 that have blocking stretched out from Scandinavia through Iceland and into Greenland. Obviously those are cold, they're bringing in the wind still from an easterly direction. So quite remarkable the way the ECM ensembles are split, virtually 50-50 down the middle from day 10, and that extends out towards the middle part of February between the milder and the colder options. CFS V2 still seems to be sticking by its idea of a relatively cold February, though. This is the 700 millibar height on the 4th February from the CFS V2. It's showing that blocking signal around Greenland and Iceland. It's showing the below average heights to our south, so you will be favouring bringing in east to northeasterly winds. That would be kind of like in line with these 25 that we see here with this blocking up to the north between Greenland and Scandinavia on the ECM ensembles. They sort of look very similar, or they look very similar. And the temperature anomaly, therefore, for February is still forecast to be colder than average, not just for the UK, but for most parts of northern and Western Europe, quite significantly colder than average. On the scale, it's kind of like taking us down to between 2 and 3 degrees colder than average, which is significant for this model. This model normally favours milder than average temperature anomalies. When it does get cold, it's only normally very slightly colder than average. So for the CFS to be going for a monthly temperature anomaly that's kind of like a couple of degrees colder than average for the UK is quite unusual, and it is significant. But as we've seen from the ECM ensembles, we have got this 50-50 split as to what's going to happen next week. Will we reduce the blocking and bring through the Wesleys, or will blocking prove to be more stubborn, a little bit stronger, and keep us cold, and maybe turn us even colder as we get through to the middle part of February? All will be revealed in the days ahead, so we'll be keeping you updated, of course. Right, that's brought you up to date with everything. We've got Snowwatch coming up tonight, probably be around 8 o'clock this evening, so come back for that then. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.